The clock ticked louder than usual that morning. I sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a warm cup of tea, staring at the phone on the counter. It was old, cream-colored, with a cord that curled like a vine. David always said, "You don't need to answer the phone, Ellen. I'll take care of it." He said it so many times that I stopped arguing. But that morning, when sunlight touched the tablecloth, something in me wanted to reach for it. When David came in, tightening his tie, he said, "You made breakfast?" "Yes," I murmured. "It's getting cold." He looked at the plate, frowned. "You know I don't like eggs that way." "I'm sorry," I said softly. "You always say that." He sat, took a bite and sighed. "Anyway, remember, if the phone rings, just let it ring. I'll handle it when I'm back." I nodded. I always nodded. It was easier than fighting. He looked up suddenly. "What's that look?" "What look?" "That one. Like you're thinking too much." "I'm just tired," I said. He smirked. "Then rest. You think too much about nonsense. The world's not going to fall apart if you just trust me." "Trust? I used to think it meant love." He finished eating, stood up and brushed crumbs off his shirt. "You should go out more," he said. "Maybe see Clara. Keeps you from imagining things. She's busy with her family." He grabbed his jacket. "I'll be late tonight. Don't wait up." When the door shut, the house sank into silence. I listened to the fading sound of his car, then stared again at the phone. It sat there like a forbidden thing. I whispered to myself, "It's just a phone, Ellen. Just a phone." But my hands didn't believe my words. They trembled. I stood up, walked to the sink, washed the already clean dishes. Anything to avoid that feeling of wanting to know. The clock ticked on. 10 minutes passed, maybe 20. Then the phone rang. The sound made my heart jump. Once, twice, 3 times. I froze, towel still in my hands. "Don't," I whispered. "Don't touch it." But I stared at it anyway, like it was calling my name, not his. After the 5th ring, it stopped. Silence filled the air again, thicker than before. I sat back down, heart racing. Why did it bother me so much? Why did that simple ringing feel like something forbidden? Something dangerous? When the phone rang again, I almost dropped my tea. My first instinct was to run, but I didn't. I just stared. It rang, and my mind filled with David's voice. "You don't need to answer it. I'll take care of it." He always said it like a kindness, but it never felt kind. I whispered, "What if it's important?" My voice sounded strange in the empty kitchen. I reached out, fingers hovering above the receiver, then pulled back. I imagined his face if he found out. The tight jaw, the cold stare. "Did you answer the phone, Ellen?" I could hear it so clearly that I sat down again, defeated by a man who wasn't even here. Time passed slowly. I watched sunlight crawl across the floor, fading from gold to gray. The phone stayed quiet now, as if mocking me. By evening, when David came home, I'd convinced myself the call had been nothing. Probably a wrong number. Probably meaningless. He stepped in, loosened his tie. "Why is it so dark in here?" "I forgot to turn on the light." "You forget a lot lately." He dropped his briefcase. "Any calls?" My throat tightened. "No." He studied me for a moment, eyes narrow. "You sure?" "Yes." "Good. People call at odd hours. Best not to answer strangers." He sat down, flipping through the newspaper. "Dinner ready?" "Almost." "I've been thinking," he said, not looking up. "You should stop talking to Mrs. Hall next door. She asks too many questions. She's just friendly. She's nosy. Don't encourage her." I bit my lip. "She just said she misses seeing you at the community dinners." He lowered the paper. "I told you I don't like gossip. Don't repeat what people say." I swallowed hard. "Okay. Good girl," he said, returning to his paper. His words made my stomach twist. I wasn't a girl. I was a woman who'd spent 40 years being told when to speak and when to stay quiet. That night, when he fell asleep, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The silence felt louder than the ringing phone had. I whispered to myself, "You're scared of a sound, Ellen. A simple sound." But deep down, I knew it wasn't the sound that scared me. It was the truth hiding behind it. The next morning, I woke up before him. The house was quiet again. The phone sat in the same place, untouched, but I couldn't stop looking at it. I set down his breakfast and said softly, "David, what if I answered one day?" He looked at me sharply. "You won't." And if I did? His eyes turned cold. Then we'd have a problem. I smiled faintly, pretending to agree, but something inside me shifted that morning. I didn't know it yet, but the next time that phone rang, I wouldn't be afraid anymore. The morning started like every other. Quiet, predictable, safe. I folded the laundry while David hummed in the shower. His phone buzzed on the table, lighting up again and again. At first I ignored it. Then it rang. It kept ringing. I called out, "David, your phone's ringing." He didn't hear me over the water. The name on the screen flashed once before it went dark. Unknown caller. Then it rang again. Something inside me moved. My hands shook. "He'll be mad," I whispered. But curiosity burned stronger than fear. I picked it up. "Hello." There was a pause, soft breathing on the other end. Then a woman's voice whispered, "Tell David I can't do this anymore." My throat closed. "Who is this?" The woman inhaled sharply. "Just tell him. Please." The line went dead. I stood frozen, phone pressed to my ear. My heart hammered so loud I thought he'd hear it through the walls. When David stepped out of the bathroom, I quickly placed the phone back and turned toward the sink. He said, "Who were you talking to?" "No one," I lied. "Just humming." "Humming." He narrowed his eyes. "The phone rang." "Yes, but I didn't touch it." He stared at me for a long second, water dripping from his hair. "You're sure?" "Yes." My voice cracked. He grabbed the phone, checked the screen. His jaw tightened. "Probably a wrong number." I tried to sound calm. "Must be." He didn't respond. He just put on his shirt and left without another word. The moment the door closed, I collapsed into the chair. I could still hear her voice, soft, desperate, familiar somehow. "Tell David I can't do this anymore." Who is she? What couldn't she do? That question stayed with me all day. I couldn't eat, couldn't focus. Every small sound made me jump. By evening, I decided to act normal. I cooked his favorite dinner, set the table perfectly, folded his napkin the way he liked. When he came home, he sniffed the air. "You made stew." "Yes," I said, smiling faintly. He sat down. "Good." We ate in silence. I could feel him watching me. He said, "You're quiet." "I'm always quiet. Quieter than usual." "I'm fine." He chewed slowly, eyes still on me. "You didn't get any strange calls today?" "No," I lied again. He nodded. "Good. I had a business call this morning, probably that. You know how people mix numbers." I swallowed hard. "Business call?" "Yes," he said sharply. "You don't need to ask about my work." I wasn't. He cut me off. "Ellen, I told you before, curiosity leads to trouble. You trust me, don't you?" "I do," I said, though my chest tightened around the lie. He smiled faintly, like a teacher pleased with a student. "That's my girl." After dinner, he sat in the living room reading the paper. The clock ticked. I washed dishes, but my mind wasn't in the room. I whispered to myself, "Tell David I can't do this anymore." Each word replayed like a song I couldn't stop hearing. When he went to bed, I stayed in the kitchen staring at his phone on the counter. It vibrated again, one text. My breath hitched. I walked closer. The message preview flashed just one word. "Please." I froze. My heart thudded so hard it hurt. He walked in suddenly. Still awake. I jumped. I was just turning off the light. His eyes flicked to the phone. "Did you touch it?" "No." "Then why are you standing there?" I couldn't sleep. He stepped closer, his voice lower now. "Ellen, we've talked about this." "I know. You don't need to worry about who calls me." "I'm not worrying." "You are." His voice softened, almost kind. "You always let your mind wander. It's what gets you upset." I wanted to scream, "I'm not upset, I'm waking up." But I said nothing. He smiled faintly, brushed my arm. "Go to bed." When he turned away, I noticed something I'd never seen before. His smile didn't reach his eyes. I lay awake most of the night, staring at the ceiling. My thoughts were louder than any phone ring. Who is she? How long had there been a she? By morning, I made a decision I didn't fully understand. When he left for work, I'd look. Just once. As soon as he walked out, I unlocked the phone. My hands trembled so much I nearly dropped it. I didn't know his passcode, but my name, Ellen, was always the password for the home Wi-Fi. Out of habit, I tried it. It worked. My breath caught. Dozens of messages appeared, some recent, some old. Words like miss you, next week, and hotel flashed across the screen. I scrolled fast, my eyes burning. The woman's name was Marianne. I read one message that made my hands go cold. She doesn't suspect anything. I'll tell her soon. She, meaning me. The air in the kitchen changed. Everything felt smaller, tighter, as if the house itself knew. The front door opened suddenly. Ellen. I jumped, dropping the phone. He stepped in early from work, holding a folder. His eyes darted to the floor, to the phone between us. His voice was soft. Too soft. What were you doing? I thought you forgot something. I heard it ring. He picked it up slowly. Did you open it? I swallowed hard. No. His eyes searched mine. You're lying. I couldn't breathe. David, please. He slammed the folder onto the counter. You had one rule. One simple rule. Tears stung my eyes. It was ringing. I didn't mean to. You always mean to, Ellen. You're never satisfied just living in peace. Peace. My voice broke. Is that what this is? He stepped closer, lowering his tone. You're emotional. You imagine things. That's why I protect you from all this nonsense. I shook my head. You're protecting yourself. He froze, then smiled, cold, sharp. Be careful, Ellen. Words like that ruin marriages. He left again soon after, leaving the door half open behind him. I stood there, hands shaking, staring at the empty space he'd walked through. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of him leaving. I was afraid of what I might do next. When David left that morning, the air in the house felt different. Heavier, colder. I could still feel his anger from last night lingering in every corner. I cleaned the table just to keep my hands busy. The phone sat there again, silent and smug. I whispered, you know everything, don't you? Of course it didn't answer. That week, David came home later than usual. Each night he smelled like a place I didn't know. Perfume, smoke, something unfamiliar. On Thursday he walked in past midnight. You're still awake? I couldn't sleep. He laughed. You worry too much. You always did. I just wanted to know if you're okay. I'm fine. Work's been a mess. You wouldn't understand. Then explain it to me, I said quietly. He set his briefcase down. Why? So you can twist my words later. I don't twist anything. He looked me up and down. You used to be sweet, Ellen. Now all you do is question. Maybe I'm finally learning to ask. He smiled thinly. Don't start this again. You get emotional and forget your place. My place? Yes. Your place is to trust me. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. He poured himself a drink, muttering under his breath, You're lucky I don't mind your moods. I stared at the glass in his hand. Do you ever wonder why I'm sad, David? He chuckled. You always find something to be sad about. When he went upstairs, I whispered to myself, maybe it's because I'm married to a ghost. The next morning I decided to stop pretending. I followed the trail of small lies he thought I wouldn't notice. A lipstick stain on a napkin tucked in his jacket pocket. A hotel keycard in the glove compartment. Receipts for dinners I'd never attended. Each clue felt like a nail in the coffin of our marriage. That evening he came home humming, carrying flowers. Look what I brought my beautiful wife. I forced a smile. They're lovely. You see, you thought I forgot our anniversary. It's not our anniversary. He paused. It isn't. No, David. That was 2 months ago. He frowned, then laughed. All right. Time flies. Doesn't matter. Take them anyway. He kissed my cheek. His lips felt like ice. We sat down for dinner. I asked gently, do you ever think about when we were younger? He looked at me strangely. Why? I just miss who we used to be. He smiled. You mean when you listen more? I forced a small laugh. Something like that. Halfway through the meal I asked, who's Marianne? The fork slipped from his hand and hit the plate. What? I said, who's Marianne? He froze, eyes narrowing. Where did you hear that name? I saw it on a message. His voice hardened. You went through my phone again? I didn't go through it. I saw the screen light up. You're lying. I'm not. He leaned forward. You always were a jealous woman. I'm not jealous, I said. I'm hurt. Hurt. He scoffed. Over what? Some random name. Over lies. Over secrets. Over years of pretending. He stood up, pacing. You're making something out of nothing. I'm warning you, Ellen, stop digging. Or what? He turned slowly. Or you'll destroy this family. I stared at him, feeling something break inside me. David, this family was destroyed the moment you stopped loving me. His eyes flinched just for a second. Then he laughed. You've been watching too many dramas. I'm living one, I whispered. He slammed his hand on the table. Enough. I'm not discussing this nonsense. He grabbed his keys and stormed out, leaving the flowers on the table between us. When the door slammed shut, I sank into my chair and stared at the bouquet. The petals were beautiful, red, full, and perfect. But beneath them, the stems were already rotting at the base. The next few days passed like a fog. I tried to act normal when Clara visited. She looked at me closely. Mom, are you okay? You look pale. I'm fine, I said too quickly. Where's Dad? At work. He's always at work. She hesitated. You sure you're fine? I smiled weakly. I've been tired, that's all. She nodded, but her eyes didn't believe me. You can tell me anything, you know that? I know. When she left, I sat alone again with the silence. That night when David came home, he didn't speak. He went straight upstairs, phone pressed to his ear. Through the thin walls, I could hear his voice. Soft, careful, nothing like how he spoke to me. He said, I miss you too. My heart stopped. Then he said, don't worry, she doesn't suspect a thing. I sat there holding my breath. He laughed, low and confident. In that moment, I realized something I had never dared to think before. I didn't know the man living in my house. I was married to a stranger. And for the first time in 40 years, I wasn't the one who was afraid. It was a quiet afternoon when I heard Clara's car in the driveway. I hadn't expected her. I hadn't expected anyone. She rushed in before I could even greet her. Mom, she said, breathless, we need to talk. Something in her tone made my stomach twist. What's wrong, sweetheart? She didn't answer. He hugged me hard, desperate. Then she slipped something into my hand. I looked down. An envelope. What's this? I asked. She whispered, please open it after I leave. Clara. Promise me, Mom. Her eyes glistened. There was fear there, and pity. I didn't like either. You're scaring me. I just can't stay long, she said. Dad might come home early. Clara, what's going on? She looked at me for a long moment, her voice trembling. You deserve the truth, Mom. Even if it hurts. Before I could reply, she kissed my forehead and walked out. The door closed softly, but the silence that followed was deafening. I stood in the middle of the kitchen holding that envelope like it might burn me. When I finally tore it open, a single photograph slid out. David. Sitting at a restaurant. Smiling. His hand resting over another woman's. My throat tightened. The room tilted. For a moment I couldn't breathe. I just stared at that image, trying to convince myself it was something else. Anyone else. But it wasn't. I whispered, no, not again. The walls seemed to close in. I heard my own heartbeat louder than the ticking clock. When Clara called later, I didn't want to answer. But I did. Mom, her voice trembled. I saw it. She exhaled shakily. I didn't want to show you that way. Who took it? I did, she said softly. I followed him last week. Why would you do that? I had to know, Mom. He's been lying to both of us. I pressed the phone to my ear. How long? Once. Maybe longer. Silence filled the line. I wanted to cry, scream something, but nothing came out. Finally, I whispered, you shouldn't have gotten involved. I couldn't watch him hurt you anymore. Her voice broke. He doesn't deserve you, Mom. I tried to sound steady. He's your father. I know, she said, choking back tears. But that doesn't make him right. My hands were shaking. Claire, listen to me. Don't tell anyone else. Not yet. Are you going to confront him? I don't know. She hesitated. Promise me you'll be careful. I nodded, though she couldn't see me. I will. I love you, Mom. I love you too. When we hung up, I stared at the photo again. The woman in it was young, confident. Her smile was easy, the kind I hadn't had in years. For hours I sat there watching the light fade from the kitchen window. The photo lay on the table between the salt shaker and my cold cup of tea. When the clock struck midnight, I realized I hadn't moved. I whispered into the dark, "Why wasn't I enough?" The house answered with silence. Then came the ache, deep, relentless, almost physical. I reached for the phone, half expecting David to call, to explain, to lie. I didn't care which. I just needed him to speak. But the phone didn't ring. I stared at it, waiting. Every minute that passed felt heavier. Finally, I picked it up and dialed his number. It rang once. Twice. Then his voice, cheerful, distant. "Hey, it's David. Can't talk right now." Beep. I hung up before I could say anything. I sat there in the dark kitchen, the phone still in my hand. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound left in the house. I whispered to the empty air, "I waited for you. Every night. Every morning. And you were never really here." The tears came quietly. When I looked at the photo again, I noticed something small. His wedding ring wasn't on his hand. That detail pierced deeper than anything else. He hadn't just lied, he had erased me. I pressed the photo against my chest. "You said forever," I murmured. "You said I was your only one." I remembered his words from years ago. The night he proposed, the way he promised protection, loyalty, love. I used to believe vows were sacred. Now they felt like a trick. The clock ticked on. Each second scraped against the silence like a reminder. At some point I whispered to myself, "He doesn't know yet. But everything's about to change." I didn't know what that meant, not fully. But I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. The next morning Clara called again. "Mom, did you sleep?" "No." "Do you want me to come over?" "No, sweetheart. Not yet. Please don't face him alone." "I won't," I said. But my voice betrayed me. I would. She hesitated. "You always protected everyone, Mom. When are you going to protect yourself?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. When the call ended, I placed the phone on the table beside the photo. Two pieces of my life side by side, the truth and the silence. I sat there until evening, my reflection in the window faint against the fading light. Then I whispered, "Ring." Just once. I waited. The clock ticked. The refrigerator hummed. Nothing. I laughed softly, bitterly. "After all these years, you finally gave me peace. And it feels like punishment." That night I didn't sleep. I just listened to the silence. The kind that comes when you've lost everything but the courage to stay awake and face it. And for the first time I realized, maybe the silence wasn't empty. Maybe it was mine. It took me 2 nights to gather the courage. 2 nights of staring at that photo. 2 nights of hearing his laughter in my head. Then I did what I was never allowed to do. I picked up the phone and dialed the number that once called our home. The line rang once. Twice. Then, "Hello." Her voice was soft. Unsure. I froze. "Who is this?" "Marianne," she said. "Who's speaking?" My throat went dry. "I'm Ellen. David's wife." Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. "His wife." "Yes," I whispered. "Oh my God," she said, her voice trembling. "He told me you were gone." I closed my eyes. "Gone." "He said you passed away years ago. That he was alone." The world tilted again. I gripped the counter to stay steady. "He lied to you," I said quietly. "Just like he lied to me." "I didn't know," she whispered. "Please believe me." "I didn't know." "I do believe you." She exhaled shakily. "He said he wanted to start over. That he'd been through so much pain. He said he wasn't allowed happiness before." I almost laughed. "That sounds like him." Her voice cracked. "I feel so stupid." "No," I said gently. "You were in love." Pause. Then she said, "I thought I was special." "You were," I said. "That's what he does. He makes you feel seen. Until you disappear." She went quiet. I could hear her breathing, shaky, fragile. Finally she said, "Do you want proof?" "Screenshots. Messages." "I have them." "Proof of what?" I asked. "That he said the same things to me he probably said to you." I hesitated. "Send them." Minutes later my phone buzzed. Message after message. Her photos came through. Texts filled with promises, future plans, sweet lies written in the same phrases that once made me believe I was safe. "He told me I was his second chance," she said softly. "He told me I was his only one," I whispered back. She gave a sad laugh. Guess we both heard different versions of the same story. Yes, I said. Different verses of the same song. Silence lingered between us, heavy but human. Then she asked, "Are you angry at me?" I thought about it. The old me would have said yes. But something inside had changed. "No," I said. "I'm angry at him. But not at you. You were just another part of his performance." Her voice broke again. "He said he was going to leave soon, that we'd move away together. He even looked for houses." I swallowed hard. He used to do that with me too. Every time he hurt me, he'd promise a fresh start somewhere else. But he never changed, just changed the story. "I should have seen it," she whispered. "He's good at hiding things. He made me doubt myself for years." A small sob came through the phone. "I'm so sorry." "Don't be," I said softly. "You didn't ruin my life. You just helped me see it clearly." "I thought I was helping him heal," she said. "But he only needed someone to believe him." My voice was quiet now. That's what men like him feed on, belief. For a while neither of us spoke. The silence felt strange, almost comforting. Then she asked, "What are you going to do now?" "I don't know yet," I said. "Maybe nothing. Maybe everything." "You should expose him," she said, anger flickering in her tone. "I thought about it," I admitted. "But I've lived in noise for so long. Maybe silence is stronger." She hesitated. "If you ever want to talk again, please call me." I smiled faintly. "Thank you, Marianne." She paused. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "After all he did, do you still love him?" That question hung in the air like smoke. I let the seconds stretch before answering. "I don't know," I said honestly. "But I do know I don't fear him anymore." She exhaled slowly. "That's something, isn't it?" "It's everything," I whispered. We said goodbye quietly, as if speaking louder might break the fragile peace we'd found. After the call ended, I looked at the messages again. The same words, different woman. The same script, two hearts fooled. I didn't cry this time. I just sat in the stillness and whispered, "We were both victims. But at least now we're free." And for the first time in years I felt something close to forgiveness. Not for him, but for myself. I sat at the kitchen table long after sunset, staring at the door. The air felt thick, like the house itself was holding its breath with me. His plate was set. His chair waited. When the clock hit 9, I heard his car outside. The engine stopped. The keys jingled. The door creaked open. "Ellen." His voice floated in, calm, unaware. "Why are the lights off?" I didn't answer. He stepped closer. "What's wrong now?" I looked up. "We need to talk." He sighed, annoyed. "At this hour?" "Yes," I said, steady but trembling. "Sit down." He frowned but obeyed, dropping his briefcase beside the chair. He looked pale. "What's this about?" I slid the envelope across the table. "The one with the photo." He didn't touch it. "What's this supposed to be?" "Open it." He rolled his eyes, tore it open, glanced at the picture, then froze. His jaw tightened. "Where did you get this?" "From our daughter," I said. "She followed you." His eyes narrowed. "Clara shouldn't have." "Don't you dare blame her," I snapped. My voice startled even me. "You did this." He leaned back, forcing a smirk. "So what? You're spying on me now." I clenched my fist. "You lied to me. To her. To everyone." "I didn't lie," he said coolly. "I just didn't tell you everything." "That woman's name is Marianne," I said. "I spoke to her." His face went white. "You what?" "I called her. She didn't know you were married. She thought I was dead." He stood up abruptly. "You had no right." "I had every right." I shouted. My voice echoed through the house. "You made me live in silence for years. You made me afraid of my own phone." He pointed at me. "You're overreacting." "Overreacting." I laughed bitterly. "You built your entire life on lies." He paced, running his hands through his hair. "You pushed me away, Ellen. You're always so quiet, so cold." I needed warmth. My stomach twisted. "You needed control." He spun toward me. "You never listen." "I listened every day," I said, my voice shaking. "I listened when you shouted, when you blamed me, when you turned love into something small and sharp. I listened because I thought silence would keep the peace." He scoffed. You made this house miserable with your moods, your sadness. My sadness. I cut him off. You created it. He slammed his hand on the table. Don't play the victim. I'm not playing anything, I said. I'm finally telling the truth. He laughed coldly. You can't handle the truth, Ellen. You never could. I stood. My hands were shaking, but my voice grew stronger. The truth is, you used me. You wanted a wife who'd never question you, who'd cook and smile and stay quiet. You wanted obedience, not love. He crossed his arms. You're pathetic. No, I said softly. I was. Not anymore. He rolled his eyes. You're making a scene. For once I'm allowed to, I said. You always said good wives keep things inside. But look where that's gotten us. You cheating, me breaking, and our daughter afraid of coming home. His smirk faded. Clara doesn't understand. She understands more than you think, I said. She saw what you did. She saw what you turned me into. He exhaled sharply. You're not perfect either, Ellen. You stopped being interesting years ago. You stopped caring. I felt something inside me snap, not in anger but in release. You never looked close enough to see I was dying to be noticed. He looked away. You're being dramatic. I laughed, the sound bitter, almost hysterical. Dramatic? You lied, cheated, manipulated, and I stayed. I stayed through everything. And now you can't even look me in the eye. He glared at me. What do you want from me? Apology? Forgiveness? Because you're not getting either. I don't want anything from you, I said. Not anymore. Then why are we doing this? Because I need you to hear me. My voice cracked. You don't get to rewrite this story anymore. He stared at me for a long time. Then coldly, you're nothing without me, Ellen. I took a deep breath. Maybe. But at least now I'll be nothing on my own terms. His face twisted with rage. You ungrateful. Don't, I warned, raising my voice. Don't say another word. He stepped closer, towering over me. I gave you everything. You gave me silence, I whispered. And I mistook it for peace. He hesitated, just long enough for me to see the fear flicker behind his anger. Then he grabbed his keys. I'm done. He stormed toward the door. David, I called. He stopped but didn't turn. I hope she sees you for who you really are. Before you destroy her too. He slammed the door behind him. The sound echoed like thunder. For a long time I didn't move. The air felt suddenly lighter, as if years of invisible weight had finally lifted. Then my knees gave out and I collapsed to the floor. But I didn't fall from weakness. I fell because my body couldn't hold the relief. I covered my face and cried, not the quiet tears I used to hide, but loud, shaking sobs that filled the house and didn't ask for permission. The clock ticked. The tea went cold. The silence grew, not cruel this time but clean. And in that silence I heard something new. My own voice. It trembled, but it was mine. The days that followed were slow, heavy, and quiet, but not the same kind of quiet as before. It wasn't suffocating anymore. It was mine. David didn't come home. Not that night, not the next. At first, I half expected him to return furious, pretending nothing had happened. But he didn't. His absence spread through the house like a strange new scent, unfamiliar but strangely clean. The phone started ringing again. The first call startled me. I almost didn't answer. Old habits die hard. But then I smiled at the absurdity. I picked it up. Hello. Ellen. It was my old friend Margaret. Are you okay? I heard. Heard what? I asked, sitting down slowly. That David left. People are talking. I sighed. Of course they are. You know how this neighborhood is, she said gently. They whisper about everyone else to avoid their own reflection. I let out a quiet laugh. Let them whisper. Margaret hesitated. There's more, Ellen. I wasn't sure if I should tell you. What is it? I have a friend who works at the bank David's company deals with. There's talk about an investigation. Fraud, fake accounts, money trails. For a second I couldn't speak. Fraud. Yes, she said. Apparently things have been messy for a while. They're looking into him. I leaned back in the chair, the world spinning slowly. I should have seen it. I should have known. No, she said softly. You were surviving. There's a difference. Her words sank deep. After we hung up, I sat in silence for a long time, tracing the cracks on the table with my fingers. Fraud. Lies. The same poison that lived in his words had seeped into his work. Karma didn't come loudly, it never does. It arrives quietly, wearing the same silence he once used to control me. The next day Claire called. Mom. I'm here. Have you heard? I have, I said. About the investigation. She hesitated. Are you okay? I think so. I keep wondering what he's thinking right now, she said softly. Probably that none of this is his fault, I replied. That's how men like him survive, by pretending they didn't do anything wrong. She sighed. I wish I could protect you from all this. I smiled faintly. You already did, sweetheart. You showed me the truth. I'm proud of you, Mom. Her voice cracked slightly and I felt warmth rise in my chest. You sound stronger, I said. I learned from you. We both laughed. A small, fragile laugh, but it was real. After we hung up, I looked around the house that once felt like a prison. The curtains were open. Sunlight actually touched the floor now. For the first time in years, I noticed how dusty my old easel was, tucked behind the dining room. I walked over, brushed off the cover and stared at the half-finished painting, a lake at sunset. I remembered when I started it. David had called it a waste of time. But now it looked like freedom. So I painted. Fully. My hands shook, but the colors came alive again. Every brushstroke felt like reclaiming a small part of myself. In the evenings I cooked, not because anyone was coming home but because I wanted to. The smell of roasted garlic and warm bread filled the house instead of fear. Sometimes the phone would ring and I'd answer it, every single one. Hello. I'd say, smiling. Sorry, wrong number, someone might reply. That's okay, I'd answer. You still reached someone. It became a small ritual, proof that my voice still existed. One afternoon Margaret visited. She brought flowers. You look different, she said, watching me stir soup. I feel different, I replied. Lighter, she said. Maybe it's because the truth weighs less than lies, I smiled. She nodded slowly. What if he comes back? I didn't even flinch. Then I'll answer the door the same way I answer the phone now, by choice. We both laughed softly. Later that evening I sat by the window watching the streetlights flicker on. Across the road 2 neighbors stood whispering, glancing toward my house. I waved. They looked startled, then turned away quickly. I smiled. Let them talk. Let the world see me. The woman who once couldn't answer her own phone now answering life itself. The wind shifted. The chime by the porch tinkled softly. I whispered to the empty room. He took my silence. But he never took my voice. I just forgot where I left it. As I spoke, the phone rang again. I picked it up, heart steady. Hello. It was a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Carter? A man asked. Yes. This is Officer Lane. We're conducting an inquiry about your husband's business. We might need your statement. I paused, then said calmly, of course. I'll help in any way I can. He thanked me and hung up. For a long time I held the receiver in my hand. My reflection in the dark window smiled back. Not broken, not bitter, just awake. I whispered to myself, karma came quietly, but it came. The phone clicked back into its cradle with a soft sound. Not fear this time, but finality. And somewhere deep inside I realized, I wasn't waiting anymore. Weeks slipped by like soft rain on glass. I didn't count the days anymore. I painted. I cooked. I answered every call except one that never came. Until it did. It was a Thursday evening. The sky was pale gray, the kind of light that makes the world feel fragile. I was in the kitchen rinsing paint from my hands when the phone rang. That sound, the same tone that used to make my heart race with fear, now just echoed softly in the quiet. I wiped my hands, walked to the table and picked up the receiver. Hello. For a moment there was only silence. Then a breath. Familiar. Heavy. Broken. Ellen. The voice cracked like old glass. David. He exhaled sharply, like hearing his own name hurt him. You answered. I always do now, I said quietly. He gave a bitter little laugh. I didn't think you'd ever speak to me again. I almost didn't. There was a pause. I could hear traffic in the background, maybe the hum of a cheap motel TV. I've lost everything, he said finally. The company's gone. The accounts are frozen. Everyone turned on me. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, though my voice didn't carry pity, just truth. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, he muttered. I just wanted more. More than what? I asked. More than what we had. More than you gave me. I closed my eyes. Even now he twisted the knife. David, I gave you everything I had. My youth. My voice. My silence. He didn't answer right away. Then softly, I miss you, Ellen. Do you? Yes, he said quickly, almost pleading. I can't sleep. I keep hearing your voice. The way you used to say my name when you were happy. I want to come home. Please. Let me come home. I stared at the wall, the one where his framed photo used to hang. The outline of it was still faintly visible, but the frame itself was long gone. Home, I repeated. That word doesn't mean what it used to. Please, he said again. I'll make it right this time. I'll change. I almost laughed, not cruelly but sadly. You said that to Marianne too, didn't you? He froze. She told you. She didn't have to, I said. Your lies all sound the same. The line went silent. For a moment I could hear only his breathing, shallow, uneven. I never meant to hurt you, he whispered. But you did, I said simply. Over and over. And I let you because I thought my silence was love. He sighed, a sound that cracked into a sob. Please. I have nothing left. I took a long breath. My heart didn't ache this time, it felt steady. Oh. Do you remember, I said softly, how you used to answer the phone before me? How you'd tell me not to pick it up because I'd say the wrong thing? He didn't answer. I used to sit in that chair, I continued, watching it ring and ring, my hands frozen, waiting for permission to speak. Ellen. But tonight, I said, voice firm, I don't need permission. He inhaled sharply. Please don't hang up. Just talk to me. Just one last time. I hesitated, not out of weakness but remembrance. All the nights of quiet. The empty dinners. The way he made silence a punishment. And then slowly I smiled. No, David, I whispered. You taught me what silence feels like. Now it's your turn to listen. There was a faint sound, maybe a gasp, maybe a plea, but I didn't wait to hear the rest. I hung up. The phone clicked softly into its cradle. For a moment I stood there staring at it. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full. Full of peace, full of everything I once lost. Outside, the wind brushed through the trees. The chime by the porch sang faintly, as if the world itself exhaled with me. I sat down at the table, hands steady, heart light. The phone stayed quiet. Beautifully quiet. And for the first time I realized, silence wasn't his weapon anymore. It was my freedom. It's been months since the last call. I live by the sea now. A small, quiet town where the mornings smell of salt and bread from the bakery next door. The house is small but it breathes. Every window opens easily and no door is ever locked from the inside. When people ask why I moved here, I smile and say, for the sound. They laugh, not understanding that silence has a sound too, and mine finally feels kind. At first I barely spoke to anyone. I'd walk along the beach watching the waves roll in, wondering if healing was supposed to feel this lonely. But one afternoon, a woman named Ruth stopped me by the shore. You new around here? She asked. Yes, I said softly. Just moved a few weeks ago. She smiled. We have a small group at the community center. Women who meet every Thursday. You should come. I hesitated. What kind of group? Just women, she said simply. Who've been through things. Who talk. Who listen. I almost said no. The old instinct to stay quiet tugged at me, but then I remembered that last phone call and how my voice had finally carried strength. I'll come, I said. That Thursday I sat in a circle with 7 women. Different faces, different ages, same ache. We shared coffee, stories, small bits of ourselves. When it was my turn I froze. Ruth touched my arm gently. Only if you're ready. I took a deep breath. I used to be afraid of the sound of a phone, I began. It meant trouble. Control. Fear. My husband made me believe that silence was safety. But it wasn't. It was a cage. The room stayed quiet. No judgment. No pity. Just listening. I don't want sympathy, I continued. I just want to remind anyone who feels small. You're not broken for staying silent. You were surviving. Ruth nodded slowly. That's powerful, Ellen. I smiled, the name no longer heavy. I just don't want to waste what I've learned. After that night, I began journaling again. At first, only a few lines a day, shaky, uneven. Then more. Memories. Thoughts. Small victories. Each word felt like a breath I'd been holding for years. One morning, Ruth called. "Ellen, would you share your story at our next meeting? We have new women joining." My instinct whispered no, the old fear again, but my heart said yes. "I will," I told her. That evening, I stood before them, voice steady, heart open. "I used to think silence was love," I said. "That keeping peace meant losing myself. But now I know, peace isn't quiet. It's honest." A few women nodded, eyes glistening. When the meeting ended, a young woman approached me. "Your story, it helped," she whispered. "I thought I was alone." I smiled. "You're not. None of us are." Later that night, I sat by my window, the sea whispering outside. The phone rang just once. A wrong number maybe. But I didn't flinch. I didn't freeze. I let it ring. Then I answered. "Hello." No one spoke on the other end. Just soft static. I smiled. "It's okay," I said gently into the line. "I'm here." I hung up, the sound of the sea filling the silence. For the first time in my life, silence didn't mean fear. It meant freedom. And every time the phone rings now, I smile, because I finally answered the call that mattered most. The call of my own voice. The sun is setting again. It paints the sea in shades of gold and rose, the same colors I once dreamed my life would be. I sit by the window, the soft wind moving through the curtains. On the table beside me lies an old notebook, a pen, and the phone that once ruled my world. It hasn't rung in weeks, but somehow I still keep it close, not out of fear anymore, but out of gratitude. I open the notebook and begin to write. "Dear me," I whisper, the words shaky but sure. I pause. The sound of the waves fills the silence. Then slowly the letter begins to take shape. "You were not weak. You were surviving." I stopped, my chest tightening. Those words, I wish someone had said them to me years ago. I read them aloud, as if speaking to that frightened woman sitting in the kitchen, waiting for a man to decide when she could speak. "You thought silence kept the peace," I say softly, "but all it did was bury your voice." I glance at the phone. The old, faded buttons look harmless now. "Do you remember?" I whisper. "Every ring used to make your heart race. You thought every sound meant trouble." I chuckle faintly. "But that ring, that one call, it changed everything, didn't it?" For a moment, I imagine my younger self sitting across from me, trembling hands, tired eyes, still hoping, still afraid. "Ellen," I tell her, "you did your best with what you knew. You tried to love him the only way you could, quietly. But you don't have to whisper anymore." The room feels warmer. The air carries something lighter now, not sorrow but peace. I keep writing. "Thank you for surviving the nights you wanted to disappear. Thank you for keeping the faith when no one saw your pain. You did not fail. You simply forgot who you were for a while." Tears fall on the page, but I don't wipe them away. They belong here. The clock ticks softly in the background, not the sharp, demanding tick of that old house, but a gentle rhythm that feels like breathing. Then, almost without thinking, I pick up the phone. It's cold, heavy with memories. "Do you remember the rules?" I say quietly. No answering unless he said so. I press my fingers over the buttons, one by one, then set it down again. "You don't control me anymore," I tell it. The silence that follows isn't empty. It's full of peace, full of meaning. I close the notebook and sign the letter. "With love, the woman you became." As I fold the paper, I smile through my tears. "We made it," I whisper. "We really did." Outside, the sun slips behind the horizon. The last light of the day glows through the window, wrapping the room in soft gold. I place the letter beside the old phone, the same one that started it all, and rest my hand on it for a moment. "You can rest now," I say to my younger self, to the silence, to every version of me that ever felt trapped. "You're free." A faint breeze moves through the room, almost like an answer. For a long moment I just sit there, breathing, smiling, remembering. Then I whisper to the fading light. "Thank you for ringing that day." The phone stays still. The house stays quiet. And for the first time in my entire life, I don't wish for it to ring again. Because the only sound I need is my own.